drupa, for many people at least, for as far as I can hear, is a life or business transforming event. We're talking here about digital transformation, and actually for me it has been a transformation as well, because up until yesterday evening I was still looking very much like this. And so yesterday I thought, let's make a change, let's transform, and that is what I have been transformed into. I'm representing 4Ps. I'm the CEO at 4Ps, and we'll talk about 4Ps and about atomics. 4Ps is a digital transformation agency for print. So we typically help printers to automate and to connect their different systems together to produce as efficiently as possible. So we help printers succeed by implementing hassle-free automation. Today I want to talk to you about connected automation, because typically when we talk about automation, or when we talk about something called workflow, and I'll get back to that in just a little bit, we talk about this part of the workflow. People have a workflow, they bought a workflow, they have software that is a workflow. And it's one of the things that I have been battling with for the last couple of years, is to make people understand that the workflow is not a piece of software that they have. It is a process, and it is very often a significantly larger process than they want to see themselves. The real process is a process that starts at the customer's intent, the demand that there is, and it ends really when whatever printed product that somebody purchases or has a need for is delivered. When we talk about workflow, we talk about that entire journey, that entire business process and manufacturing process. And so when we talk about connected automation, we also talk about the entire workflow that we want to connect. The reason why I want to talk about that is because what we see, and I believe at this drupa, it becomes more and more obvious, the way that print is being sold today has changed drastically. A couple of years ago, or a couple of decades ago, we saw the first digital storefronts appear. And so people saw that, certain printers saw that, on one hand as a threat, on the other hand as an opportunity. The more innovative printers actually that saw it as an opportunity already 20 years ago started by developing themselves or using e-commerce technologies to have a digital storefront in addition to their traditional sales channels. A decade later, that had evolved to a certain extent where certain printers could also connect and start to produce for other platforms, or they would have multiple storefronts. They would have closed storefronts dedicated to specific customers and use those to serve specifically those customers in a B2B environment. If you look at the sales channels for print today, you actually see that you have a multitude of opportunities to connect to different platforms. As there are more and more platforms in a platform economy, you also see that the products that are being sold on there are very often highly customized products. There's sites like Etsy and things like that, where creators can actually start to offer dedicated mugs or handbags or bags or whatever personalizable product that there is there. These products, they are personalized through print technologies. And they go through printer networks that then on their turn, they pass on the production of these products through local print service providers. So today, as a mid-sized printer, you have an opportunity not just to connect to your own storefront and sell online, but there's actually a multitude of platforms that you can connect to. Good example of that is that 8 years ago, if you were at Drupa, you would not have seen some of the exhibitors that are here today. You see a gelato here today, you see a cloud printer here today, there's the likes of print.com. These are all online platforms, again, through which you, as a mid-sized printer, you can connect to and use that as an additional income stream to produce additional orders. At the same time, you can use those platforms also for the products that you sell on your own e-commerce site. And so if there are certain products that you have customers for, but that you do not have the equipment for to produce yourself, again, you could capture that demand through your own website and reroute those on the different platforms and have those produced. This means that at the end of the day, in this entire cobweb of platforms and software and the entire technology stack, it kind of becomes challenging to see who is the customer and who's the supplier, because you could be just a middle person taking in orders from one and pushing that out to somebody else. That's why the connectivity becomes so important, because in order to produce those orders efficiently, you need to have all the data sources connected. You need to be able to route jobs in an intelligent and fully automated way from these different order sources to your own production or through a third-party production. You also need to be able to instantly give feedback on the status of those orders. And all that cannot be done if you have siloed information containers, and if that information flow does not happen in a completely fluent way. Again, some of these online platforms that you'll see out there, I've named a couple of them, and some of them, again, are here present at the show, but there's others that we would not necessarily consider to be real print platforms. However, again, they produce personalized products, personalized phone cases, apparel, and other things that, again, are personalized because of print technologies. At the same time, we need to connect what is on-premise, or what is the entire technology stack of a printer. A printer obviously has some software to drive production, to drive pre-press, but you have an MIS system, you might have a separate CRM system. Again, connecting all these different systems together becomes more and more important, on one hand, to automate and to efficiently produce orders up down to a quantity of one, but you'll also need to connect to shipment APIs and also stream the logistics behind that. So when we talk about connected automation, we really talk about connecting the entire workflow from the beginning to the end. We also talk about connecting online cloud-based systems with on-premise technologies. And we talk about digitizing the entire workflow. That means that also the input and the feedback of order status needs to happen. And as print still remains a manufacturing process, there will be operators and certain manual tasks involved. However, it is not because it is manual that it shouldn't be digital. Today, we see still a lot of paper going through production, where there's job bags and job sheets that are passed on from one stage to the other. In order to efficiently produce orders and to very quickly allow data flow through, we also need to digitize that step and provide operators with an opportunity to provide feedback in a digital environment rather than through paper. Why do we want to do that? Obviously for performance reasons, but also for transparency reasons. Again, you want everybody in that workflow, from the end user over to the platform, over to internally within the team of the printer to know where a job is and to pass on that information in an as transparent and automated way. At the same time, you also want that to be measurable. You want to be able to exchange information because you want to make analytics on those. You want to see which customers are profitable for you. You want to know which products and which systems are profitable. So that measurability is also a very important aspect. Ultimately, you want to be able to do all that to scale. Now, when I'm saying scaling, I do not necessarily mean growing. One of the other trends that we see very often is that there is an increased seasonality in print. Certain products in certain seasons are more in trend. Whether it is Christmas cards, to give a very simple example during the Christmas season, but also things related to the end of the school year or the beginning of the school year or Father's Day or Mother's Day. There's all these events, worldwide events that might suddenly increase demand for certain specific products. That means that at a certain moment in time, you might have high demand for those products, but also very low demand in other moments. And so today, very often, you rely on on-premise infrastructure that is typically very hard to scale. When we talk about connected automation, we're looking at a fully scalable infrastructure that allows you to scale the infrastructure along with the demand that you may have for it. That is what we've tried to build with Atomics. With Atomics, we've built a system that allows printers to move from mass production, where you produce one item multiple times, and turn that around to a mass customization platform, where you're actually taking a commodity product, whether that is a substrate or a specific product like a mug or a cap, and produce that down to a quantity of one. What we've built for that with Atomics is an integration platform as a service. Now, an integration platform as a service is something that is known in the generic IT industry, and it goes under the names of a Zapier or a Work2 or an Airtable. Essentially, these are platforms that connect different APIs together. They connect Google Sheets with CRM systems, with business analytics and things like that. The challenge with those systems today is that they do not connect to the industry-specific systems that we're using in our industry. So they do not connect to MIS systems. They do not connect to the production automation systems that we're using in our industry. And so, again, with Atomics, we've tried to build a system that does exactly that, that connects some of the generic tools that are out there, communication tools like email, but Slack or Teams to facilitate internal communication, but again, that also connect the industry-specific tools that we typically use. Atomics is composed of, it is one platform, but it actually has multiple modules to it, different products to it. And the first product is Atomics Prepare. In print, when we talk about data, very often or essentially people think about files. It is the artwork data that goes on the print, essentially. With Atomics Prepare, we've built an artwork processing API, basically a pre-press system in the cloud that allows you to process files at scale. Rather than having to buy licenses and to install these on infrastructure, with Atomics Prepare, you're simply talking to an API, you feed it data, you feed it files, you feed it artwork, and you get results back. Results on is that file printable? Can I correct it, and is it corrected? Or even if I want to create specific proof sheets or add production elements such as dye lines or varnish or undercolor white, all these things you can do with Atomics Prepare in a scalable, pay-per-use, full SaaS, full cloud way. The second aspect is Atomics Manage, and Atomics Manage really takes that other part of the data to production. Atomics Manage handles the connectivity and the order and administrative data. So when I was talking earlier about how I can connect different APIs together, how I can connect different order sources and order platforms together, that is essentially what Atomics Manage does. It connects through plugins, so a very low barrier way of connecting two platforms. It connects to these different platforms and it funnels the orders from these different order sources, unifies the data, and allows the data exchange to other systems that are used in the production. And then at last, Atomics Layout is handling layout planning and intelligent pricing. So again, in a little bit more detail, Atomics Prepare checks the printability, converts between format, does color conversions, fixes problems, essentially makes PDFs production ready. The use cases for this are e-commerce integration. So with Atomics Prepare, if you have an e-commerce shop of your own that you manage yourself, typically what we see today is that when orders come through that shop, that the files for that are taken on-premise, they're being processed on-premise, and then they're being returned to the cloud for approval or to provide feedback on the quality. With Atomics Prepare, you can actually directly integrate between your e-commerce website and that API and get instant feedback from a cloud-to-cloud system without having to do that, that rerouting to an on-premise technology. You can also use that to build your own job submission portal to that. What we see is that the requirements for job submission, depending on the business that you're in, depending on the products that you have, may be very different. If you have relatively simple products like business cards, that might not be all too excited. But if you're producing in a large format environment more complicated products like tents, or if you're in an apparel environment where you're actually producing clothing, the way that you present that to a user might be quite different, and so you can build around that API your own specific job submission portal. Obviously, cloud-based prepress in general, if you really are looking to move your technology stack entirely to the cloud, you can do that with Atomics Prepare as well. We're announcing here at Drupa also a couple of OEM integrations. So we have also third-party platforms that are now using Atomics Prepare. We have a cloud-based MIS system, Omikai, that is in Hall 8B, where because their MIS system is a cloud-based system, it makes complete sense to also just directly talk to another cloud-based API. And so where they're handling in the MIS system all the order information, if they receive orders from non-online sources, if they're just getting an email with a PDF attached to that, or if files would be dropped on an FTP site and they want to link that artwork to an order, through the integration with Atomics Prepare, they are able to immediately and dynamically check that file, that artwork against the specifications of the order. There's another integration that we've done with Design and Buy. Design and Buy is an online personalization tool, an online editor that you can integrate into any web-to-print and into any e-commerce system. And there too, while you have more control over the design, the user might still import or place certain elements on that design, or even place complete PDFs on that design that contain non-printable elements. Again, through the direct API integration, that online editor can process files immediately and either provide feedback on potential errors that are in there, or immediately correct these, again, without having to go through any difficult integration of technology, just talking to the API, providing the files and getting the results back. With Atomics Manage, as mentioned before, we're really trying to connect the entire workflow together. And so we're connecting, on one hand, incoming order sources from e-commerce systems, from platforms, from marketplaces, but we also have the possibility to push back orders into these other systems and marketplaces. At the same time, we're looking at connecting to generic tools, softwares, and platforms such as accounting, CRM, messaging, and storage. But we're also connecting to the industry-specific tools that you're using, either on-premise or cloud-based, such as MIS and ERP systems, print automation, and equipment. The goal of Atomics Manage is to connect all these different data sources and systems together, to unify the data in a common data model, to be able to visualize the data in dashboards so that you can follow throughout your production in the different steps, the orders and the jobs, and present that to different users, not just to follow up on it, but also to make that actionable and to have, for instance, an operator that is in finishing that would be pushing eyelets, for instance, to give them an overview of which are the jobs that they need to process today, but also to digitally provide feedback into the system on whether these jobs have been processed, yes or no. Use cases that we see here are connecting to these online business opportunities and funneling the orders, connect print buyers with print platforms and manufacturing, and overall orchestrate workflows by providing connectivity, automation, and insight. With Atomics Layout, as mentioned, we're looking at enabling that production of a quantity of one. In order to be able to efficiently produce a quantity of one, you obviously need to combine orders together. You need to be able to impose, gang, and nest orders together, and that is essentially what Atomics Layout does. It collects that order information, it connects all the characteristics of those orders, and based on a number of criteria, obviously the production criteria as to what is the media that it goes on, what is the machine that it should be produced on, but also delivery dates and things like that. It is combining these jobs together to make it as efficient as possible. Use cases here are ganging, nesting, and impositioning, but also, and more, estimation and smart job routing and dynamic pricing. So that's what Atomics is about. We are situated just here at the back of the presentation stage. If you want to know more, or if you want to get a personalized demo, we're right there for you.